I'm Morgan, 31 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I sold my $350,000 condo to a developer, then vanished. 79 missed calls, 47 text messages, an email from my mother with the subject line, "What have you done?" in all caps. A 2 a.m. text from my sister, "Morgan, they're saying we have 30 days to move out. Where are the kids supposed to go?" I didn't answer. Not because I'm heartless, but because I'd spent my entire life answering, explaining, accommodating, and it was never enough. Before I continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. Now, where are you listening from today? Drop your city and local time in the comments. I'd love to know who's here with me. Let me take you back 4 weeks to Christmas Eve dinner when I stood in my parents' kitchen and heard something I'll never forget. Growing up in the Platt family, I learned early that love came with conditions. I just didn't have the words for it then. My father, Harold, spent 30 years at a manufacturing plant before his back gave out and forced early retirement. My mother, Diane, ran our household like a small kingdom where loyalty meant compliance and questioning her meant betrayal. Then there was Kelsey, my younger sister by 3 years, the baby, the one who needed protecting. I was the odd one out, the kid who buried herself in textbooks, who won a full scholarship to college while Kelsey dropped out after 2 semesters with $40,000 in student loans. The family narrative wrote itself. Morgan got lucky. Kelsey got life. What no one mentioned was the 4 jobs I worked through school, the summers I spent interning while my sister vacationed, the promotions I earned while she collected excuses. But in my mother's eyes, success wasn't something you built. It was something that happened to you, like weather or fate. And if fate smiled on me, then surely I owed something to those it had passed over. The phone calls started small, $20 for gas, $100 for an unexpected bill, $500 when Derek, Kelsey's husband, lost another job. I always sent the money. I never asked questions. Looking back, I can't remember the last time my mother called just to ask how I was doing. Every conversation ended the same way, a request wrapped in guilt, delivered with the precision of someone who'd mastered the art of making obligation feel like love. I was the family ATM. I just hadn't read the fine print yet. But that Christmas, standing in the kitchen I'd grown up in, the terms and conditions finally became clear. 3 years ago, I bought a condo in a developing neighborhood on Chicago's northwest side. 2 bedrooms, clean lines, a view of the city that reminded me every morning how far I'd come. I paid off the mortgage last November. 8 years of disciplined saving, side consulting gigs, and saying no to vacations I couldn't afford. The day I made that final payment, I sat on my living room floor and cried, not from sadness, from relief, from proof that I existed outside of what my family needed from me. The neighborhood had changed since I moved in. New restaurants, a coffee shop on every corner, property values climbing steadily. My $280,000 investment was now worth $350,000, maybe more to the right buyer. My mother noticed. Every visit home came with comments that felt casual, but landed like stones. "You live alone in all that space?" she'd say, shaking her head. "Kelsey's kids share a bedroom the size of your bathroom." Thanksgiving last year, she pulled me aside. "You know, sweetheart, if you ever wanted to help your sister get on her feet, that condo of yours could change her life." I laughed it off. Surely she was joking. She wasn't. What I didn't know then was that Kelsey had already called the developers buying up the block. She'd asked if they were interested in purchasing her sister's unit. They declined. They didn't work through unauthorized intermediaries. She'd been circling my home like a shark for months. and I'd been too busy writing checks to notice the blood in the water. The Christmas dinner invitation arrived in early December. "Family only," my mother wrote. "We have so much to celebrate." I should have known then. Celebrations in the Platt family always cost someone something. Christmas Eve at my parents' house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon candles. White lights blinked along the porch railing. A wreath hung crooked on the front door, the same wreath from my childhood, its red bow faded to pink. Inside, the living room glowed. A small tree sat in the corner, weighed down with ornaments my mother had collected over 40 years. Frank Sinatra crooned from a Bluetooth speaker my father still didn't quite understand how to use. I arrived with gifts for everyone: a cashmere scarf for my mother, a new fishing reel for my father, art supplies for my niece Lily, age 5, and a stuffed dinosaur for my nephew Oliver, age 3. For Kelsey, a gift card to her favorite home goods store, practical, impersonal, safe. "Morgan!" Lily ran to me the moment I stepped inside, her arms wrapping around my legs. "Aunt Morgan, I drew you a picture." I knelt down to accept a crumpled piece of paper covered in purple scribbles. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Is this a horse?" "It's you," she said seriously, "with purple hair." I laughed and hugged her tight, breathing in the smell of children's shampoo and innocence. Kelsey and Derek arrived 20 minutes late, complaining about car trouble. Derek's handshake was limp. Kelsey's smile didn't reach her eyes. Dinner was pleasant enough: turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole. My father told the same jokes he'd told for decades. My mother fussed over portion sizes. Oliver threw peas at his sister. Normal, familiar. But I caught it. The glance between my mother and Kelsey when they thought I wasn't looking. The slight nod. The way Derek checked his phone under the table, then showed Kelsey something that made her suppress a smile. They were waiting for something. After dinner, I offered to help with dishes. My mother waved me toward the kitchen. "You're a saint, Morgan. Always so helpful." The kitchen sat at the back of the house, separated from the living room by a narrow hallway. I filled the sink with soapy water, scrubbing plates while Christmas music drifted from the other room. Then the music stopped. Someone had turned it off. Voices carried, low, conspiratorial. I turned off the faucet. "Leaves January 2nd for Seattle, 2 weeks." My mother's voice. "And Dad gets the spare key?" Kelsey. "He'll say he's watering her plants, feeding that ridiculous fish of hers." Derek spoke next, his tone eager. "We should move fast. January 3rd. Get in before she lands." My hands froze around a wet plate. "Change the locks first thing," Kelsey continued. "By the time she's back, we're settled. What's she going to do? Call the cops on her own sister?" My mother laughed softly. "Morgan, she won't do anything. She never does. She'll cry, she'll pout, and then she'll get over it. She always does. That place is wasted on her anyway." Kelsey's voice dripped with something I'd never let myself name before. "Single woman in a 2-bedroom, while my kids sleep in a closet?" "Exactly," my mother agreed. "Family takes care of family. She'll understand eventually." I stood frozen in the kitchen, dishwater cooling around my wrists. My heart pounded so loud I was certain they could hear it. I wanted to scream, to storm in and demand explanations, to finally, for once, fight back. Instead, I picked up the next plate, washed it slowly, dried it with a towel, and placed it carefully in the cabinet. They thought they knew me. They were about to learn otherwise. I wiped my hands on the kitchen towel, straightened my sweater, and walked back to the living room. My face betrayed nothing. Years of risk analysis had taught me one invaluable skill. Never show your hand until you've calculated every outcome. All done in there? My mother looked up from the couch, her smile warm and oblivious. Squeaky clean. I settled into the armchair near the tree. Lily, want to show me more of your drawings? Lily bounced over with a stack of papers, and I made a show of examining each one. A house with smoke curling from the chimney, a rainbow with 7 distinct bands, a family of stick figures, 4 of them, none with purple hair. From the corner of my eye, I watched Kelsey studying me. Her gaze lingered a beat too long, suspicious, probing. I smiled at her. The turkey was delicious this year, Kels. Did you help Mom with the recipe? She blinked, thrown off. Yeah, I brined it overnight. You can really taste the difference. My mother beamed. Crisis averted. Normal restored. But nothing was normal. Not anymore. I looked at them. These people I'd spent 31 years trying to please. My mother, who confused control with love. My father, who'd rather stay silent than stand up. My sister, who'd learned that being the victim was easier than being accountable. And Derek, who'd married into a family of takers and fit right in. They had always seen my kindness as weakness, my silence as permission. They were wrong. By the way, I said casually, I'm meeting with my lawyer next week, just some paperwork. My mother barely glanced up. That's nice, dear. She had no idea what she'd just dismissed. Later that evening, Kelsey found me on the back porch. The air was sharp and cold. I stood wrapped in my coat, watching my breath form small clouds that dissolved into nothing. She appeared beside me, arms crossed, shoulders hunched against the chill. Getting some air? She asked. Just needed a minute. We stood in silence. Then she started. So, Seattle. How long again? 2 weeks? Must be nice. Business travel. Her voice carried an edge. I haven't been on a plane in 6 years. I said nothing. Who's watching your place while you're gone? Dad offered to water my plants. That's sweet of him. She paused, too casual. Your neighborhood's really changing, huh? I drove by last month, saw all those for sale signs. My pulse quickened, but I kept my voice even. Developers buying up the block. They want to build something new. Anyone make you an offer? I turned to look at her, really look. The envy she'd spent years disguising as concern, the calculation behind every sisterly gesture. A few people have asked, I said. I'm not interested in selling. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. You should take care of your own rental first, I added, my tone light. Didn't you say the landlord's been difficult? She stiffened. We're handling it. Good. Kelsey opened her mouth, then closed it. Something flickered in her eyes. Doubt, maybe. The smallest crack in her certainty. But she recovered quickly. Well, don't freeze out here. She turned and went back inside, leaving the door slightly ajar. I stayed a moment longer, watching the stars appear one by one. She'd been testing me, checking if I suspected anything. I'd passed her test. Now it was time for mine. I left my parents' house at 9:30, hugging everyone goodbye with practiced warmth. Drive safe, sweetheart. My mother squeezed my shoulders. And remember, leave that spare key for your father. Of course, Mom. The drive home took 40 minutes. I spent the first 10 in silence, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I called Elena. She answered on the second ring. Morgan, it's Christmas. Everything okay? They're planning to take my condo. I told her everything: the kitchen, the conversation, the casual confidence with which they discuss stealing my home. Jesus Christ! Elena exhaled slowly. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. You could confront them, call the police when they try to move in. And then what? Watch them cry and apologize, then do it again the moment I turn my back? Elena was quiet. Then, what about that Seattle promotion? The one HR's been asking about for 2 months? She was right. The offer had been sitting in my inbox since late October. Senior Risk Analyst, Pacific Northwest Division. Permanent relocation. I'd been putting off the decision, telling myself I wasn't ready to leave Chicago. But what was I staying for? I've also been getting calls from developers, I said slowly. They want to buy the whole block, my unit included. Morgan, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I merged onto the highway, the city lights stretching before me. I've spent 31 years being the person they wanted me to be. Maybe it's time to figure out who I actually am. After we hung up, I typed a message to Marcus Webb, my real estate attorney. Marcus, I need to meet you on the 26th. It's urgent. I want to discuss all my options, including selling. The reply came within minutes. I'll clear my schedule. Marcus Webb's office sat on the 14th floor of a glass tower downtown. The day after Christmas, the building was nearly empty. Morgan. He gestures to a leather chair. Your message sounded serious. I told him everything. The kitchen conversation, the plan to move in while I was gone, the spare key my father would use. When I finished, Marcus leaned back. Let me make sure I understand. They plan to squat in your condo and present it as a done deal when you return? Yes. And you want to know your options? All of them. Marcus nodded. Option 1. Wait until they trespass, then call the police. They'd be removed, but they'd claim I gave verbal permission. It becomes my word against theirs. Exactly. Civil court. 3 to 6 months minimum. During that time, they could stay while the case drags on. And I'd be the sister who called the cops on her family. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That matters to you? I thought about Aunt Patricia, about the family grapevine, about how quickly Morgan kicked out Kelsey's children would spread. It's not about what they think of me, I said slowly. It's about the energy I'd spend fighting them. Every holiday, every family gathering. The battle would never end. Option 2, Marcus continued. You sell. The new owner handles eviction. You're not the villain. You're just someone who sold their property. The developers buying the block, are they still interested? Robert Smith? Very. He needs your unit to complete the project. I stared out the window at the gray Chicago sky. If I sold to him, I said, anyone living there would have to leave. Standard 30-day notice, non-negotiable with demolition permits. For the first time in days, I could breathe. Set up a meeting. Robert Smith was a pragmatic man with steel gray eyes and a handshake that meant business. We met in Marcus's conference room 2 days later. Robert slid a folder across the table. Ms. Platt, I'm prepared to offer 18% above market value. Cash. Closing in 10 business days. The number made my breath catch. Why the rush? My construction loan locks in on the 15th. After that, the bank adjusts terms unfavorably. I need all units by then. Marcus leaned forward. What about current occupants? Standard procedure. 30-day notice to vacate after closing. Demolition permits don't allow exceptions. I studied the contract. Then I looked up. I should be honest with you. I've been considering selling for a while since I received a job offer in Seattle 2 months ago. I was hesitant because this place meant something to me. Robert nodded, unsurprised. And now? Now I have additional reasons to move forward. The family situation Marcus mentioned. Yes. I met his gaze. If I sell to you, I'm not the one evicting anyone. You are. Your company sends the notice, your timeline, your demolition permits. That's correct. So I'm just a property owner who sold to a developer. Nothing more. Robert's expression didn't change, but I caught a flicker of understanding. That's exactly what you'd be. One more question. Has anyone else contacted you about my unit? He paused. About 2 months ago, a woman claiming to represent her sister. I declined. We don't work through unauthorized parties. 2 months. Kelsey had been circling my home like a shark while I was still writing her checks. I'll need until January 7th to decide. After that, the offer expires. 7 days. More than enough time to be certain. I want to pause here for a moment. If you've ever been in a relationship where someone treated you like a resource instead of a person, where family meant obligation without respect, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And tell me, what do you think I should have done? A. Confront my family directly, or B. Continue with my quiet plan? Drop your answer below. I'm genuinely curious. Now let me tell you what happened next. New Year's Eve, my Uncle Richard's house in the suburbs. The gathering was modest by holiday standards. About 15 relatives crowded into a split level from the 1970s. A folding table held a spread of potluck dishes, champagne chilled in a cooler by the back door. I arrived alone, bearing a bottle of wine I had no intention of drinking. Kelsey and Derek were already there, working the room like politicians at a fundraiser. Derek's laugh was too loud. Kelsey's smile was too bright. They radiated the particular energy of people who believed their ship had finally come in. I hung back near the kitchen, nursing a glass of sparkling cider and watching. It didn't take long. Such exciting news, Kelsey was saying to Aunt Patricia. We're moving to a new place in January. Much better neighborhood. The kids will finally have their own rooms. Oh, how wonderful! Patricia clapped her hands together. Did you buy? Kelsey's hesitation lasted half a second. It's a family arrangement. Morgan's place, actually. She's got all that space and it's just her, so... My mother materialized beside them, right on cue. Morgan's always been generous. You know how she is. Anything for family. The words hit me like ice water. Patricia spotted me across the room. Morgan, your mother was just telling me about the arrangement. That's so sweet of you to share your home. Every head turned in my direction. My mother's eyes carried a warning I knew intimately. Don't make a scene. Kelsey's expression dared me to contradict her. I felt the weight of their expectation, the assumption that I would fold, as I always had. Instead, I smiled. Family helps family, I said simply. That's what the Platts do, right? My mother's shoulders relaxed. Kelsey exhaled. They thought they'd won. They had no idea what family really meant to me anymore. Aunt Patricia cornered me by the dessert table 20 minutes later. She was my mother's older sister, a woman who collected gossip like some people collected stamps. Her eyes sparkled with the particular gleam of someone about to pry. Morgan, honey, she gripped my elbow. Come talk to me. I let her guide me to a quiet corner near the stairs. So, she began, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, your mother told me everything about letting Kelsey move in. Did she? You're such a good sister. Not everyone would do that, you know, give up their own home. I'm not giving it up, I said carefully. It's more of a transition. Still, Patricia shook her head. With everything Kelsey's been through, those precious children, and that husband of hers, she lowered her voice further. Between you and me, I don't think Derek will ever amount to much. I said nothing. Your mother said you agreed to this weeks ago. Said it was your idea, even. There it was, the lie, spreading through the family like wildfire. By the time I returned from Seattle, the narrative would be set in stone, generous Morgan finally doing her duty. Aunt Patricia, I said, I appreciate your concern. But what happens with my condo is between me and my immediate family. Her face flickered, surprise, then a flash of irritation at being shut out. Of course, dear, of course. She patted my arm. I just want you to know, we all think you're doing the right thing. I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. The right thing. They'd been telling me what the right thing was my entire life. I was about to show them what it actually looked like. Midnight approached. Somewhere in the house, someone started counting down. New Year's Eve, 11:58 p.m. I sat alone in my condo, laptop open, the city glittering beneath my windows. Fireworks would start soon, celebrations for people who believed in fresh starts. 2 emails waited on my screen. The first, Marcus's final paperwork, Robert Smith's offer, 10 days to closing. 30 days after that, demolition. The second, HR's confirmation of the Seattle transfer, Senior Risk Analyst, Pacific Northwest Division. Start date January 20th, permanent relocation. I'd been afraid to accept either for months, afraid of what leaving meant, afraid of being selfish. But what was I holding on to? I looked around the condo, my furniture, my view, my proof that I could build something alone. They'd already taken it from me. Not physically, not yet, but in their minds, this place had never been mine. It was always just something I was keeping warm until they decided to claim it. Even if I fought them off this time, they'd try again. Next year, the year after. Every family gathering would be a negotiation, every phone call a prelude to another scheme. This condo would always be their target, and I would always be their ATM, unless I removed myself from the equation entirely. I opened the HR email first, typed my acceptance, hit send. Then I opened Marcus's document. The clock on my laptop struck midnight. Outside, fireworks exploded across the sky. I signed, not because I wanted revenge, not because I hated them, because I finally loved myself enough to stop sacrificing my future for people who only saw me as a resource. I'm not selling because of them, I whispered to the empty room. I'm selling because I'm finally ready to leave. The document uploaded. The deal was done. Happy New Year. This one would be different. January 2nd, O'Hare Airport. I boarded my flight to Seattle with 1 carry-on and a laptop bag. Everything else I needed would follow, or wouldn't. Material possessions had started to feel less important. Before takeoff, I called my father. Morgan. His voice was gruff, distracted. You at the airport? Just about to take off. You have the spare key, right? Got it yesterday. A pause. You need me to do anything specific? Just water the plants, feed Blueberry. Blueberry was my betta fish, a small blue creature who'd kept me company through 3 years of solitary dinners. Will do. I almost asked him, almost said, Dad, do you know what they're planning? Do you care? But I already knew the answer. Harold Platt had spent 58 years avoiding confrontation. He wasn't going to start now. Safe travels, he said, and hung up. The flight took 4 hours. I spent most of it staring out the window, watching the country scroll beneath me like a map being refolded. On January 3rd, my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Kelsey had posted a story. The image showed my living room, my couch, my bookshelf, my view of the Chicago skyline. Boxes were stacked in the corner. Oliver's stuffed dinosaur sat on my coffee table. The caption read, "New chapter, new home, blessed." My throat tightened, but not from sadness, from the cold clarity of seeing exactly who my sister was. More photos followed throughout the day. Derek installing a new lock on my front door. Lily's drawings taped to my refrigerator. Kelsey posing in my kitchen, a glass of wine in her hand. They were making themselves at home. They had no idea they were decorating a demolition site. January 10th, Seattle. I sat in a coffee shop 3 blocks from my new office, laptop open, watching the rain trace patterns down the window. The barista had spelled my name wrong on my cup, Morgan, but I didn't mind. Here I could be anyone. My phone buzzed. Marcus Webb. "It's done," he said. "Closing complete. Funds have been transferred to your account." I looked at the number on my banking app. More money than I'd ever had at one time. Enough to start over. Enough to never look back. And the notification timeline? Robert's team will post the demolition notice within 7 to 10 days. Standard 30-day vacate period after that. Thank you, Marcus. Morgan. His voice softened. Are you sure about this? Once that notice goes up, there's no taking it back. I thought about Kelsey's Instagram stories, about my mother's confident assurance that I would get over it, about my father, who had handed over my key without a single question. I'm sure. All right then, he paused. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. We hung up. I closed my laptop and wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. Outside, Seattle went about its gray, rainy business. Strangers walking dogs, couples sharing umbrellas, people living lives that had nothing to do with mine. I felt strange, not triumphant, not vindictive, just light. Like I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. My phone buzzed again. A text from Elena. "How are you holding up?" I typed back. "Better than I expected. The notice goes out soon. Are you ready for what comes next?" I watched the rain fall. I've been ready for years. January 18th. I was in a morning meeting when my phone started vibrating. Once, twice, a third time. I silenced it and focused on the presentation. By lunch, I had 17 missed calls. The first voicemail was from my mother. "Morgan Elizabeth Platt, you call me back right now. What have you done? What have you done?" The second was from Kelsey, her voice shrill with panic. "There are people here, with papers. They're saying we have to leave in 30 days. Morgan, this has to be a mistake. Call me." The third was from Derek. "This is insane. You can't just sell a place with people living in it. We're calling a lawyer." The fourth was my father. He didn't leave a message, just 10 seconds of heavy breathing before hanging up. I sat in my car in the parking garage, scrolling through text messages that ranged from confused to furious to desperate. Kelsey. "Call me now." Mom. "How could you do this to your sister?" Kelsey. "The kids are terrified." Morgan. Mom. "We raised you better than this, Derek. You'll be hearing from our attorney, Kelsey. I looked up the property records. You sold it. You actually sold it." Mom. "Your father is having chest pains." Kelsey. 30 days. Morgan, where are we supposed to go? I read each message carefully. Not one of them said sorry. Not one of them acknowledged that they'd tried to steal my home. Not one of them asked if I was okay or why I'd done this or what had led us here. They weren't angry that they'd been caught. They were angry that I hadn't let them win. My phone rang again. Kelsey. I watched her name flash on the screen until it went to voicemail. Then I turned off my phone entirely. Let me pause here. If you're still with me, if this story is hitting close to home, take a breath. Get some water. I know this part is intense. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button. It really does help. Now I have a question. What do you think happens next? Will my family apologize? Or will they double down? Tell me your prediction in the comments. Here's how it actually played out. Over the next 48 hours, my phone became a weapon. 79 missed calls, 47 text messages, 12 voicemails, 4 emails. I documented everything. Screenshots, timestamps, transcripts. Not because I planned to use them, but because I knew how quickly my family could rewrite history. I wanted a record of who they really were when they thought no one was watching. The messages followed a predictable pattern. Stage 1. Confusion. There must be a mistake. Call us. Stage 2. Anger. How dare you do this to your own family? Stage 3. Guilt. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Stage 4. Threats. Derek's cousin is a lawyer. We're looking into our options. Stage 5. Bargaining. Just call us. We can work this out. Please, Morgan. What none of them said. We're sorry we planned to take your home without asking. What none of them admitted. We were wrong. Kelsey's messages were the most revealing. You knew we were moving in and you sold it anyway? Not. I'm sorry we tried to steal from you. The kids are crying every night. They thought this was going to be their new room. Not. We should have asked permission. How am I supposed to explain this to Lily and Oliver? As if I had created this situation. As if their tears were my responsibility. I saved every message. Then I closed the folder and went for a walk along the Seattle waterfront. The air smelled like salt and pine. Seagulls argued over scraps near a fish market. Strangers passed me without a second glance. I had never felt so invisible. I had never felt so free. On January 21st, 3 days after the notice went up, I broke my silence. One email, sent to my mother, father, Kelsey, and Derek, CC'd to Marcus Webb. I wrote it sitting at my kitchen table in my temporary Seattle apartment, a cup of tea growing cold beside me. I revised it 6 times before sending. Subject, regarding the property at address. To my family, I have sold my condominium, a property I purchased with my own money and owned solely in my name, to a development company. This was entirely within my legal rights. I am aware that some of you moved into the property without my knowledge or consent during my absence. The new owners have issued a standard 30-day notice to vacate, as is their right under the demolition permit. I will not be discussing this matter further. If you require assistance finding new housing, I recommend contacting the Chicago Housing Authority or similar local resources. This is my final communication on this subject. Morgan, I didn't explain. I didn't accuse. I didn't list their offenses or catalog my pain. I simply stated facts and closed the door. The responses came quickly. From Kelsey, "That's it? That's all you have to say?" From Derek, "This isn't over." From my mother, "I don't know who you are anymore. The daughter I raised would never be so cruel." I read each one, then archived them. My mother's words should have hurt, Maybe in another life they would have. But something had shifted inside me, a door closing, a lock turning. The daughter she raised would have apologized, would have cried, would have found a way to make everyone else comfortable while shrinking herself into nothing. That daughter didn't exist anymore. I closed my laptop and watched the rain fall over Puget Sound. The family grapevine worked fast. Within a week, I'd received messages from 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and a cousin I hadn't spoken to since high school. The narrative had crystallized. Morgan sold her house out of spite while her poor sister's family was living there. No mention of the scheme hatched over Christmas dinner. No acknowledgement that they'd moved in without permission. Just, how could you do this to Kelsey? Aunt Patricia called twice. I let both go to voicemail. To Morgan, honey, this is Aunt Patricia. I just want you to know that your mother is devastated. Absolutely devastated. She keeps saying she doesn't understand where she went wrong. I think you owe her an apology, don't you? Family is family, after all. Call me. I deleted the message. Some relatives simply stopped speaking to me. I could see the blocked notifications, the unanswered friend requests, the social media silence. I was being erased from the family story, written out like a character who'd outlived her usefulness. But not everyone followed the script. A text arrived from Great Aunt Dorothy, my grandmother's younger sister. She was 83 and had always been the family's quiet observer. Morgan, I don't know the whole story and I won't ask, but I've watched you take care of that family for years while they took from you. Whatever happened, I trust you had your reasons. I'm proud of you. I read the message 3 times. Then I cried, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. One person in my entire family understood. I typed back, "Thank you, Aunt Dorothy. That means more than you know." Her reply came immediately. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Stay strong, sweetheart." I saved that message in a separate folder for the hard days ahead. The 30-day deadline arrived on February 17th. I learned the details secondhand through Elena, who'd heard from a mutual acquaintance still connected to Chicago gossip. Kelsey and Derek had nowhere to go. Derek's parents, estranged for years over money he'd borrowed and never repaid, declined to help. His brother's apartment was too small. Friends suddenly remembered prior commitments. In the end, they moved into my parents' house. 3 bedrooms, 6 people. My mother's carefully controlled kingdom overrun with toy trucks, sippy cups, and a son-in-law she'd always secretly despised. "Diane's losing her mind," Elena reported during one of our calls. Apparently she didn't realize helping Kelsey meant living with Kelsey. "How are the kids?" "Kids are fine. Kids are resilient. It's the adults who are struggling." I felt a twist of something in my chest. Guilt, maybe, or its ghost. "They made their choices," Elena added gently. "You're not responsible for the consequences." "I know. Do you, though?" I was quiet for a moment. "I'm working on it." A week later, I saw a social media post from Kelsey. No pictures this time, just text. "Sometimes the people you trust the most let you down the hardest. But we're survivors. We'll get through this." The comments were full of sympathy, heart emojis and prayer hands, promises that karma would handle whoever did this. I was the villain of her story now, the cruel sister who'd abandoned her family. The same day, I received one more message. From my father. "I'm sorry." Just 2 words. No explanation. No context. I stared at them for a long time, trying to decode their meaning. Was he sorry for what he'd done? For what he'd allowed? For the family I'd lost? Or the one he was stuck with? I saved the message, but I didn't reply. Spring arrived in Seattle like a whispered promise. I found a permanent apartment near Green Lake, a small studio with big windows and a view of cherry blossoms. The landlord was a retired teacher named Gloria, who asked no personal questions and always had cookies in the lobby. My new job was demanding but fulfilling. I analyzed risks for a living, and for the first time, I was applying those skills to my own life, calculating the cost of relationships, measuring the return on emotional investments. The math wasn't complicated. I donated most of my Chicago furniture to a women's shelter. The money from the condo sale went into diversified accounts, retirement funds, emergency savings, and a small contribution to a scholarship program for first-generation college students. The Morgan Platt Fund, I called it privately. Nobody else needed to know. Elena flew out for a weekend in April. We sat on my tiny balcony, wrapped in blankets, watching the sunset paint the mountains pink and gold. "You seem different," she said. "How so?" "Lighter. Like you finally put something down." I thought about that. I think I did. "Any regrets?" The question hung in the air between us. "Sometimes I miss who I thought they were," I admitted. "The family I imagined I had, but I don't miss who they actually were." Elena nodded slowly. "That makes sense. I used to think home was a place," I continued. "Then I thought it was people. Now I think—" I paused, searching for the right words. "Maybe home is just the place where nobody's allowed to take pieces of you." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "You're going to be okay, Morgan." I looked at the mountains, at the sky, at the life spreading out before me like an unwritten map. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." 6 months later, my phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. A text from Kelsey. The first direct contact since my email in January. I almost deleted it unread. But something, curiosity maybe, or the ghost of sisterly feeling, made me open it. "Morgan, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I don't blame you if you delete this. But I wanted you to know. I got a full-time job. Derek and I found an apartment. We moved out of Mom and Dad's last month. I'm not asking for anything. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. I'm not ready to say more than that. But I'm trying. I wanted you to know I'm trying." I read the message 3 times. No apology, no acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just progress. It wasn't enough. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something. I didn't reply immediately. I went for a run along the lake, let the morning air clear my head, thought about what Kelsey's message meant, and what it didn't. She was trying, maybe. Or maybe she was laying groundwork for the next ask, the next favor, the next entitled claim on my resources. I couldn't know for certain. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need to. The door I'd closed didn't have to stay locked forever, but I got to choose when, and if, I opened it again. That night, I typed a response. "Thank you for letting me know." 4 words. Nothing more. Kelsey replied, "Okay." And that was it. I set down my phone and looked out at Seattle's skyline, the city lights reflecting off the water like scattered stars. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in my life, that future was mine to decide. I've thought a lot about why they did what they did. Not to excuse them, never that, but to understand. Because understanding is how you stop repeating patterns. Kelsey and my mother operated from a belief system so ingrained they probably couldn't see it. Family means sharing everything. and whoever has more owes it to those who have less. Entitlement wrapped in the language of love. My mother saw herself as a protector. She'd spent her whole life shielding Kelsey from consequences, which meant Kelsey never learned there were any. When you're raised to believe the world owes you something, you stop questioning whether you've earned it. And Kelsey? She wasn't born cruel. She was shaped by circumstances, by being the struggling one, the one who received sympathy instead of accountability. Taking became normal, expected, her right. Then there was me. I was the overfunctioner, the fixer, the one who kept the peace by sacrificing pieces of myself so small I barely noticed them going. Until one day I looked up and realized I'd given away everything but my name. The thing about being the family ATM is this: the moment you stop dispensing cash, you find out exactly what you were worth to them. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself, if you're the one who always gives, who never asks, who smooths over every conflict at the cost of your own needs, I want you to hear something. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to love your family and still walk away from them. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's survival. It's also the only way to find out if someone truly loves you or just loves what you provide. Ask yourself, if I stopped giving, would they still call? The answer might break your heart, but it will also set you free, and that's my story. If you stayed until the end, thank you. Truly. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with your family? How did it go? What did you learn? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and check out the similar stories linked in the description below. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.